Hello everybody, this is Skip Elsheimer and welcome to the AV Geeks lunchtime streaming show where I am directly in the sun. I am at my house and in the front of the house because somebody is mowing, a neighbor is mowing. Hello everybody, this is Skip Elsheimer and welcome to the AV Geeks lunchtime streaming show. Anyways, so I'm not at the archive and because we're doing work there and it's hit or miss, so we'll probably be doing a lot of broadcasting live from other places, and so that's what today is. It's not pre-recorded. We're going to try this and see what happens, see if the internet collapses under our feet. But today's kind of a mixed bag of stuff because I've been moving equipment around and all that. And so these are a lot of things. Been working with someone who related to a lot of National Archives stuff. And the National Archives is our federal government's repository for documentation and documents related to functions of the government, both paper, photo, sound recordings, and film recordings. And I'm a big fan of their film recordings because it's all over the place. It's really glorious to see what pops up. And so we're going to start off with an ad, kind of a promotional piece for Kushman little three-wheel vehicles, and see how useful they are for city workers. Enjoy.
At a low dollar was using the Kushman three-wheel vehicle. We've been able to save approximately $100,000. This was done in many ways, partially by being able to use the Kushman as a satellite, bringing them back to the larger vehicle or the Packer itself. They have more than paid for themselves. One Kushman, we have found, is worth between 2 and 5 men, depending upon the area in which it's used. By utilizing the system as a whole, we've been able to put every person on a mechanized vehicle. In other words, we no longer have men walking, picking up garbage. These are truly refuse men, and as such, they have now developed into what I like to refer to as an elite corps.
The compact three-wheeled vehicle is also extensively used by municipal police departments. Statistics show that one policeman walking his beat or a single meter maid could hope to triple their efficiency and mobility by traveling in a three-wheeled vehicle. The vehicles have proved especially valuable in emergency rescues. Resuscitator equipment, stretchers, diving equipment, even a large dog can be carried in the handy weather-tight box. The rear compartment also has space for radio equipment. Meter patrol is the primary job of thousands of three-wheeled vehicles. They are just small enough to maneuver in crowded areas and park without impeding traffic. And where there is a traffic problem, the small police vehicle can maneuver well enough to get to the source and unsnarl it. Many departments are using the vehicle for parking control, accident investigations, and night patrol.
And for some reason, there's no soundtrack at the end here. It's just beautiful Kushman footage. What do we think? This is 60s, based on the cars. But oh boy, look at that! Look at that! Marking cars with chalk so that they can then go back and see I remember like wiping the chalk away from my tire when I saw it one time, in the hopes that I would be able to extend my stay in a parking spot. And those are basically, in other countries, especially like I think the Philippines, are called tuk-tuks. And they sometimes have seats in the back. But I think they're great. I would get one if they were easy to manipulate and to be street legal. All right. So here I am outside, in case you missed the intro. Let's watch a film made by the Navy about the New York Fire Department. Enjoy.
Along the New York City waterfront, smoke and flames envelop a pier and a large ship. The city mobilizes its forces to stop the dangers to human life and property. In the streets of the city itself, another large fire rages. Fire engines race to the scene. It is not every day that such fires occur, but there is always the possibility in a great city like New York. It is a tightly populated city that includes many dwellings and diversified businesses and industries within its 318 square miles of territory. Many of the buildings are old and are not fireproof. To prevent or control any fires with all the skill and tools they can muster is the day and night job of New York's big force of firefighters, a force of more than 10,000 men. To maintain a firefighting force that can meet the city's needs, the fire department has a special school to refresh the knowledge of its veterans and at the same time keep abreast of each and every device of the latest kind that will be useful in their work. Here, a group of veterans receive instruction from a rescue squad. The rescue squads include men with medical experience. In one sense, these men are the elite of the New York firefighting force. This is because their ranks contain so many experts possessing divergent skills. Not only are they specialists at combating smoke or dangerous gases in their jobs of saving human lives and property, they are also trained to handle some of the most difficult and dangerous rescue assignments. Mostly they are picked men, selected because of their vocational and technical backgrounds, which allow them to tackle any trying task and to improvise if necessary. A modern fireman should be familiar with water and hose lines. A must, therefore, is instruction in the newest water-throwing equipment. Here is demonstrated a new water tower. Firemen learn that directing the nozzle has its scientific side, and that some fires require a strong, steady stream, while others call for a high, watery curtain. Inside the fire college, a class is learning the use of artificial respirators and modern pull motors. These devices can often save the lives of persons who have been overcome by smoke or gases in burning buildings. The class is composed of veteran fire officers. They make especially good students in learning to use pull motor devices. All too often, they have tasted smoke and felt its choking breath. They know that their lives and the lives of others depend upon their own knowledge. The firemen see the usefulness of oxygen. First, a guinea pig is put to sleep with gas. Then oxygen from a tank brings the animal back to life. Revived and full of pep, he is put back in his cage for demonstration on some other day. The fire college is the testing ground for every new bit of equipment that the fire department buys. Here, fire hoses are carefully checked to see that they meet the high standards required. Now the hoses are capped, but the water keeps running into them. The pressure is steadily advanced to as high as 600 pounds per square inch to see if the lines can take it. Actually, in regular use, the pressure on the lines rarely goes higher than 200 pounds. These hoses pass the test. At the probationary school, fireman trainees go through vigorous physical training. Each recruit must be in top condition and know all of the bodily tricks normally associated with firefighting. A very practical trick is the scaling of walls. The recruit learns to cling like a human fly to the sides of buildings. Going down, a roof rope is used. Though rope is used less commonly by firemen today, it is still important as a means of escape. The really rugged side of a fireman's job is the carrying of victims on a ladder. Strength is required, plus steady nerves. Each recruit goes through the act of being rescued himself. Where ladders cannot be used, a fire net can be the means of rescue. The recruit also learns how to carry injured persons away from fire areas. At a demonstration fire call board, there is instruction in the city's elaborate alarm system. There are thousands of fire alarm boxes in New York, over 2,000 in the borough of Manhattan alone. And every New York fireman must absolutely understand the complex but thoroughly effective system that runs them. Included in the fire college are these fascinating relics of the past, when fighting a blaze was more a matter for muscles than machines. The New York Fire Department goes back as far as 1731, and the pieces of ancient equipment are kept carefully polished for the interest and edification they provide the men of the modern force. More education, this time for the public. In front of New York City Hall, firemen demonstrate some new hook and ladder trucks. It not only makes an exciting show, but also acquaints the public with the job their firemen are doing, the equipment they are operating, helping to bring the people and their public servants more closely together. At the foot of Manhattan Island is held another show, which includes a practical test of new equipment. Again, the great telescopic ladders are run up, with firemen going to the tops of them. But this time, they also bring up the hoses. A wall of water begins to rise, hundreds of tons of it. Usually involved with the ugly, dangerous work of fighting fires, the firemen here have a chance to make poetry in motion. In the harbor and along the waterfront, the New York Fire Department uses the fireboat. There are 10 fire companies on the water, each company with a fireboat. These fireboats are actually large tugs equipped with powerful water pumps. By tradition, the fireboats always greet new passenger vessels making their maiden trips to New York with a watery salute. But above all, the fireboats have a great responsibility in protecting New York's 600-mile waterfront, covered with valuable warehouses which handle tonnage for ships from all ports of the world. Well-trained, well-equipped, the men of the New York Fire Department maintain close vigilance on shore and on the water. As able public servants, they hold back the dangers of fire from the gateway to America.
All right, so I've moved over some because I am fair-skinned, and being in direct sunlight over a period of time takes its toll on me, and so I get sunburnt, like right here or like right here. It's really frustrating. So I moved over a little bit so you get to see more trees. Is it audacious for me to show you 16 millimeter films while sitting outside? Sure. I'd love to figure out a way to just set up a scanner outside and just do it, but I think there's a lot of problems with that. Maybe one day we'll figure it out. So as I was saying, we've moved out of the archive space. I might go back occasionally, but since there's a lot of renovation work happening, we're still kind of in this state of flux. So I appreciate your patience in me showing up in different locations. But today we're watching a bunch of National Archive films, and this is called A Woman's Place, and it's wonderfully insulting to women. Enjoy.
Along the New York City waterfront, smoke and flames envelop a pier and a large ship. The city mobilizes its forces to stop the dangers to human life and property.
I'll see about it. Oh, Jenny.
Scott, I don't even have a voice in the decision. I'm simply the administrator.
Look, Bernie, as I said, I didn't expect to be appointed senior surgeon, but a woman.
All I know is that 4 names were submitted to our board of directors, all nationally known surgeons, all eminently qualified. From what I hear, it was a difficult choice, but Dr. Davison got the nod.
I don't suppose the fact that until now we've had no woman on the executive staff had anything to do with it.
Scott, I wouldn't want to accuse you, of all people, of prejudice. If you're hinting Dr. Davison was selected as a token, our token woman, you're mistaken. She's a superb surgeon and a top-notch administrator. She comes highly recommended. And I expect the staff to cooperate with her in every way.
Well, they made their appointment.
Oh, finally.
Our new chief surgeon will be a Dr. Davidson.
Dr. Davidson.
Dr. Sarah Davidson.
A woman?
What's this? A woman as chief of surgery?
Yes.
That's all right. Well, what do you know about her?
Nothing.
Well, what's so bad about having another woman on the staff? They'll give you someone to trade lipstick with?
Stop kidding. It's not funny.
Maybe Joyce knows something. I'll find out.
Oh! I will not work under a woman. No, I just won't. They're bossy and they're unreasonable, and most of their judgments are based on emotion. No, even my husband will testify to that. And what's more, they just throw their weight around and makes you feel like 2 cents.
Hold on a minute. If anyone should have a gripe, it's me. As junior surgeon, I have to work directly under her, and I don't relish taking orders from a female. Women in medicine are a pain in the neck.
Well,
Present company excluded.
anyway, I'm a gynecologist, and gynecology and pediatrics, well, that's okay. After all, some female patients do feel more comfortable with a woman doctor, but general surgery, that's a man's field. It always has been and always will be.
Thank you.
That's right.
Well, Stokely's secretary knows a little something about this Davidson.
Really?
And she filled me in. As a surgeon, she's good. Maybe the best. About 35, single, and, so like I said before, that's all right.
I don't believe this.
Thanks.
What with the women's lib and the ERA, I'm never sure anymore whether to open a door for a lady or not.
Oh, no big deal. And under the circumstances, I would have done the same for you. There were two things I wanted to discuss with you. First, I spent this morning taking a look at the surgical supplies, and there are a couple of brand new forceps on the market I'm partial to, and a really great needle holder you don't stock. Is it all right if I requisition them? And another thing, I'd like to try a new program for the rotation training of surgical nurses. I've developed a program that cuts costs and increases efficiency a good 10%, and if I'm out of line, let's talk about it, okay?
Your position here gives you that authority, Dr. Davidson.
Call me Sarah. All right if I call you Bernie? Bernie, I don't want to cause any problems, so
Dr. Davidson, you're creating problems just by being here. I think you should know that if it had been up to me, you wouldn't be here at all.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because you're a woman. That's why. I know you can't help that, and I understand you're a very fine surgeon, but don't you understand? You're causing waves. You can't believe the flack I'm getting from the rest of the staff. Dr. Turner, for instance. She's already put me on notice that she has no intention of working under a woman.
Oh?
And I think I should tell you that you're going to have to tread pretty softly with Dr. Strickland. As I said, you've got a real problem.
You're wrong, Bernie. You said it. I am a good surgeon. I'm capable of filling this job, and that's what counts. So, the way I see it, if my being a woman's the problem, it's their problem, not mine.
Well, in any event, I'll help all I can.
Oh, wonderful. I thought maybe I'd have a little get-together at my new apartment on Sunday night. Could you and Mrs. Stokely come?
We'd be delighted.
Great. Almost finished. Nice job, Doctor. We make a good team. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get on with the closing. I'll suture, you tie and cut. I want to use 3/0 steel for the closing.
Steel wire. I prefer number 3 nylon for a closing, Dr. Davidson.
Sorry, Doctor. I have this thing about cholecystectomies. Steel makes a stronger closing.
I've done a number of these procedures with Dr. Barnes. He always used nylon.
Could be. Suture.
But it makes it easier.
Sorry, Doctor. It's my responsibility. We'll use the wire.
You pulling rank on me?
Yes, Doctor. I suppose I am.
Hey, you look like you could eat nails.
Wire. Steel wire.
What?
I just finished a procedure with Dr. Davidson. She insisted on closing with steel wire. So it was a cholecystectomy. It took twice as long. All the ends had to be bent in. I ruined a pair of rubber gloves.
How did it go otherwise?
Okay. And removing those stitches, guess who's going to get that job?
You know, in the medical journal, I read an article that wire or the new metal clips is preferred procedure. Now, I haven't had the occasion to use them yet. But is wire really that much trouble?
I don't know. Maybe not. I guess Dr. Davidson just rubs me the wrong way.
Hey! You're going to a party, aren't you?
Gosh, I'm so glad you could come. Can I offer you some taquitos? This guacamole sauce is really special. Looks good.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Can I offer you something else?
No, thank you.
You're sure now? Come on, even world-renowned physicists have to eat.
Please, I'm fine.
Okay. How about seconds?
Oh, you bet. I haven't tasted the likes of these since I lived in Mexico City.
I didn't know you lived in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Do you speak Spanish?
Yes, I had to learn, and learn in a hurry.
You see, when Scott got ready to begin his medical training, all the schools in this country were overcrowded. Even though his grades and his recommendations were excellent, still he kept getting turned down over and over. It got to be panic time, and finally, his only choice was to go to medical school in Mexico City.
Eventually, I transferred back to the States. By the third year, my class really thinned out. You know, the usual dropouts, the yo-yos who couldn't hack it, and the dames who only enroll as a joke or to find a husband. And once they did, they left. Had babies. What a waste.
In the medical school that I went to, we had dropouts too. The same thing, you know, some just changed their mind and some couldn't make it. But they were evenly divided between men and women.
I'd say some European countries had the right idea. Until recently, they banned women from medicine entirely. After all, you know, it is a man's field.
Sir Julius, I guess you do have a right to your opinion, and I guess there are some occupations where brawn and physical strength might give man an edge over women. But surgery isn't one of them.
Oh, my dear.
I can do anything in a surgical suite that a man can do and do it equally well.
Well, women are inferior, you know. Even the Bible says so.
The Bible? Show me. Just show me where it says that.
Well, I can't put my finger on that particular passage right this moment.
You can't, because it isn't there. Sir Julius, you're one of the most eminent physicists in the world, and I have nothing but the highest regard for your work. But when it comes to 20th century lifestyles, you're living in the dark ages.
I have an early appointment tomorrow. Come along, my dear. We'd better leave.
Ladies okay?
Well, nobody can say the party was a rousing success.
Forget it. Come on, let's clean up this mess, huh?
No, don't bother. I'll tackle it in the morning.
No way. I'm not gonna leave you with all this. Come on, let's just get at it. We'll be done in a couple of minutes.
Okay. The cream goes in the top shelf of the fridge and the sugar in the cabinets. Clay, what are you doing? Knock it off.
You are one very attractive woman.
I'm really flattered. But what's the bottom line?
What do you mean?
I mean, the hospital is teeming with hot little lollipops your own age, so, what do you want from me?
I'm telling you, it's not like that at all.
Uh-huh. Okay. I'll wash, you dry.
Okay.
I understand you've applied for the residency opening at Community Hospital.
Oh, you bet. I'd give anything to land that appointment.
And all you need is a recommendation from me.
Yeah, that's right.
And that accounts for the Casanova bit.
I'm telling you, it's not like that at all. Even if it was, you know, it's a cinch you didn't get where you're at by not throwing around what you've got.
You know, all my life I've had to put up with remarks and innuendos like that, and I'm pretty sick of it. Clay, when I was chosen high school valedictorian, I didn't seduce the male teachers. And you know, when I was accepted at medical school, guess what? I didn't sleep with the admissions officer. Oh, Clay, that's not the way it is.
Don't give me that, Jazz. Just take Mrs. Bartlett. How do you think she got to be nursing supervisor? Do you think she and Dr. Andrews have been playing bridge 2 nights a week for the past 5 years?
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Some people lie and some people cheat. And others just use what they've got. Intelligence, talent, and sexuality. And speaking of sexuality, where do you get off pointing a finger at women? What was that little bit a minute ago? You know, if you do get that residency at Community, you're going to have to deal with being the handsomest, sexiest resident Community's ever had.
Truce. When it comes to matching wits, I know when I've had it. Score 1 for you, Doctor. You are one smart broad. Oh, no.
Broad, he calls me. Clay, go home. Out, chauvinist.
Okay.
Gynecology, Dr. Turner's office? Right. I understand. I'll tell her. Bye-bye.
Hi.
Oh, I really would like to apologize for last evening. After all, Julia should not have Well, I am sorry.
Well, it's really all right. I got a little hot myself. How about lunch?
Oh, no, I have a consultation at noon, and it's something...
Did you forget? It was canceled. It's rescheduled for Wednesday.
The omelet sounds good. Oh, Betty, what's the matter?
Pain in the lower back, only when I bend over, but it's okay now.
Have you had it checked out?
Oh, sure. It's a pulled muscle. Probably from planting tulip bulbs. Julius bought a whole bag of them.
Oh.
He thinks I enjoy gardening. He's still convinced that I'm a frustrated homebody.
Are you?
I don't think that concerns you.
Betty, we're going to be working together. If something's bothering you, bugging you, let's talk about it, okay?
I don't know what you mean.
You know, when I first came here, Bernie Stokely warned me. He said there'd be passive resistance. What he didn't say is that it'd be passive resistance that'd make Mahatma Gandhi look like an amateur. If I'm going to be resented, I want to know why.
I guess you're right. I do resent you, Sarah. No. No, that's not it. I guess if I'm going to be honest with myself, I'd have to admit that it's not you exactly. It's what you represent. When I first chose medicine as a career, more than anything else, I wanted to be a general surgeon. But 25 years ago, it was unthinkable for a woman, almost indecent. Public opinion and the resistance in the profession made it insurmountable. No way. Jealousy. That's what it is. I'm jealous of you. You accomplished something I never could. It's hard to forgive you for that.
Oh, but Betty, don't you see? It wasn't you. It's just the difference in time. Nowadays, women can do anything they're capable of doing well. Sure, I'm proud of being a surgeon. But it doesn't make any difference whether I'm a man or a woman. I want to be respected as a doctor. And I want to be liked as a person.
Now that was fun. Let's do it again. How about next week?
Wonderful. I'd love to. Bye.
What is this? Mass defection or dereliction to duty?
Worse. 5:30, dinner time for the patients. You don't get far trying to make rounds dodging food carts in the corridor. I just sit and wait it out.
Me too. I was on my way to room 412 to remove some stitches, but she'll just have to wait until after they pick her tray up.
Speaking of stitches, guess who did it again?
Who?
Dr. Davidson.
Who else?
What's she done this time?
Her and her wire closings. And another thing, she delayed surgery on the Connors kid this morning until the OR temperature was raised. We didn't get started till 8:30.
I heard about it. Just a precaution, Scott. She's going by the book. You know, heat loss is greater in youngsters during surgery.
But it doesn't make that much difference.
Maybe not, but in the OR, she's the boss.
Hi.
Hello.
Sarah. Mrs. Blake's temperature is up just a little. I'd say it's an allergy to the anesthesia, but let's watch her, okay?
Dr. Sarah Davidson, 691. Dr. Sarah Davidson.
Dr. Davidson. I'll be right there.
Boy, what a waste. She is some dish. But you gotta give her one thing. She's really on the ball.
I will never get used to working with a woman. Not as my superior. Not as an equal. It grates on me. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it, and I never will.
I like her.
To tell you the truth, I don't know how I feel about her. But one thing is for sure. Women doing any job they're capable of doing. It's the coming thing. If you ask me, it's already here. And we'd better get used to it.
It's almost like a pilot for a new TV drama. Woman Chief Surgeon. or Ms. Chief Surgeon is maybe that's what we would call it. Excuse me. I have other films that have that kind of same type of vibe that were made by the federal government or for the federal government, and yeah, they all have that TV, that 70s TV feel, even though that was 1979. All right. This is something some of you weren't alive when this happened, but this was a big deal back in the day, and it's still kind of a big deal if you're in that area. This is a film about Mount St. Helens. Does anybody remember that when it erupted? Was anybody on the West Coast when that happened? This is, wait a minute. That's not right. Hold on. Yeah, I have to change this. Anyways, Mount St. Helens. Enjoy.
Mom, look at all these poor trees.
I know. This used to be a beautiful green forest.
Everything looks so dead around here.
Well, if you look a little closer, you'll see there's really lots of living things.
I bet it used to be pretty here.
It was beautiful.
Mount St. Helens, a 9,677-foot sleeping volcano nestled in the wild abundance of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in southwest Washington. Before it began to awake from its slumber in March 1980, Mount St. Helens was indeed surrounded by beautiful, bountiful forests and lakes and streams. From the summit, the views were breathtaking. Below lay Spirit Lake, and in the distance, Mount Rainier. The natural setting was a recreational haven for campers, hikers, picnickers. thousands of children had their first camping and boating experiences on Spirit Lake at the YMCA's Camp Meehan and other youth camps. Forest Service campgrounds like Bear Cove, Cedar Creek, and Donnybrook provided an inspirational setting for those who would venture into this postcard world. Though a sleeping volcano, Mount St. Helens was active many times in the history of the area, so much so that early Native Americans called it Fire Mountain. Big eruptions were seen as late as the mid-1800s. Then, the mountain seemed to go back to sleep again.
We are directly over Mount St. Helens right now, and there is no question at all that the volcanic activity has begun. You can see smoke and ash pouring from the top of the mountain, especially on the north side of the mountain.
March 27th, 1980. Following a series of earthquakes under the mountain during the previous week, Mount St. Helens began to wake up. A 250-foot wide crater opened, spewing ash and steam. It came as no surprise to geologists who had predicted 2 years earlier that Mount St. Helens would erupt before the end of the century. Volcano experts from the government, the University of Washington, and elsewhere rushed in with electronic equipment to measure the slightest twinge.
845.
And a young scientist, David Johnston, of the U.S. Geological Survey, predicted a series of events which would later prove to be incredibly accurate.
In the initial phases, we'd see probably very large eruptions that would extend high into the air. This would spread ash over large areas in western Washington, maybe possibly in an extreme case even farther east. In the near flanks of the volcano, there would be more damage done by possibly hot avalanches, pyroclastic flows. Farther downstream, we could see mud flows and floods.
Because this is such a symmetrical volcano and because the crater is so high, if there's an explosion, it's probable that the debris, the very hot incandescent ash that would come down, could come down all sides. But right now, there's a very great hazard due to the fact that the glacier is breaking up on this side of the volcano, on the north side, and that could produce a very large avalanche hazard.
By early April, the crater had expanded to 1,500 feet wide and continued to grow. The Forest Service had already closed portions of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest surrounding the volcano. Those having homes, lodges, or camps in the area were urged to leave. Using a donated helicopter and a large drop box, the operators of the Spirit Lake Youth Camp began hauling out. Most were taking the warnings seriously. Still others were not impressed with the warnings.
You don't mind working in the shadow of the mountain, then?
No, not at all. There's nothing to be scared of. More danger from one of them trees falling on the backside than there is a mountain of exploding.
For 83-year-old Harry Truman, operator of St. Helens Lodge on Spirit Lake, the warnings fell on deaf ears. He wasn't moving anywhere.
That's my life. Spirit Lake and Mount St. Helens is my life, folks. I've lived there 50 years. It's a part of me. That mountain and that lake is a part of Truman, and I'm a part of it.
Sunday morning, May 18th, 1980. It was like any other morning for a Forest Service tree planting crew on the lower southern flank of the mountain until 8:32 a.m. It seemed to happen in an instant. The whole top of the mountain, tons of ash, rock, and ice, rocketed into the stratosphere. The cloud reached some 15 miles up into the sky. The sight was spectacular.
As most of you already know, we had a major eruption occurring at 8:32 approximately this morning on Mount St. Helens. It does appear that the northwest flank of the mountain seems to be gone. They have indicated that there have been some mud flows that come down the southeast flank of the mountain. Emergency procedures have been put into effect. At 10:15 this morning, Cowlitz County reported that a 12-foot wall of water was coming down the Toutle River, and this was verified by the Washington State Patrol.
The raging wall of water caused by the melted ice and snow roared through a logging camp, picking up more debris as it went, knocking out bridges, cabins, and homes.
There is a mudslide southward right down the mountain right now. Get off the bridge! Hey, film this.
In a matter of hours, the flood surged under the Toutle River Bridge on Interstate 5, forcing closure of the main arterial between Seattle and Portland. Entire forests with logs hundreds of years old passed by stunned onlookers. Eventually, the logs and mud reached the Columbia River, clogging the river channel and closing it to freighter traffic. But the wind was blowing the ash in a northeasterly direction, and at noon it was pitch black in much of central and eastern Washington.
CITAM and CATS FM urges everyone to not panic.
If you want to start getting out some water supplies
The gritty
now,
clouds seemed to some like the end of the world.
I'm sorry, the road is closed from here any further east. Okay. This is as far east as you can go.
All over eastern Washington, people and other living things suddenly had to deal with a world full of ash. Ash from a plume that eventually spread around the world. For a while, roads and highways hundreds of miles away had to be closed due to blowing ash. The ash was everywhere, and because it was so light and fine, the grit got into everything. Water simply turned it into a substance with the consistency of wet cement. Meanwhile, the biggest rescue operation in the history of the Northwest was underway, involving military helicopter units, volunteers, and Forest Service employees, all coordinated by the county sheriffs.
Look at this. It doesn't even look like the same country. Even the valleys have changed. And nothing matches the map.
Where's Spirit Lake? Is that it over there? I can't believe I've camped up in this area. It doesn't look like any place I've ever been before.
Rescue operations lasted for 2 weeks. 170 people were brought to safety, but 57 were dead or missing. Geologist David Johnston was at a scientific research station 6 miles northwest of the mountain. Harry Truman was at his lodge. Neither was ever found.
Okay, I think we got a car down here on the left. Looks like a Japanese car of some type.
From the perilous vantage point of a still photographer and the actual recorded transmission of a ham radio operator, we learned a lot about what actually happened in the first few minutes of the eruption.
Oh, I just felt an earthquake, a good one. Oh, now we've got an eruption down here. Now we got a big slide coming off. The slide is coming off of the west slope. Now we got a whole great big eruption out of the crater. And we got another that opened up on the west side, and the whole west side, northwest side is sliding down. All right, we got it, boy. The whole northwest section and north section blowing up, it's coming up over the ridge towards me. I'm going to back out of here.
Photographer Gary Rosenquist barely escaped. Radio operator Jerry Martin did not. This was not an eruption that spewed molten lava, but throughout the day, pyroclastic flows of hot gases, ash, and pumice rolled down the mountain at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour, searing everything in the way. In the valleys below, steaming hot mud flowed over businesses, campgrounds, roads, bridges, homes. The blast had leveled about 40,000 acres of prime timber. The avalanches of debris, rocks, mud, ice, and snow created a massive natural dam at one end of Spirit Lake. Should the dam give way, communities downstream would be threatened by catastrophic flooding. To reduce the threat, the Army Corps of Engineers first used pumps and later a tunnel to keep the lake at a safe level. On privately owned lands, salvage operations to reclaim the downed timber got underway quickly. After a careful environmental analysis, the Forest Service allowed salvage in the National Forest. Though there have been lesser eruptions several times since May 1980, scientists from the U.S. Geological Survey visit the steaming crater, continuing to monitor the changes taking place. And as a new mountain begins to take shape inside the crater in the form of a slowly building dome of hot lava, we're learning more about how volcanoes are formed. Other researchers from the Forest Service, universities, and private research organizations are conducting ongoing research projects in areas affected by the eruption. All of them are seeking answers to such questions as, how did the eruption affect water, plants, and wildlife? How can we better predict eruptions? What can we learn about the formation of the Earth and its soils, and how life interacts? On the slopes of the mountain, scientists such as biologist Jim McMahon found that what looked like a dead environment was really very much alive.
When I first visited the volcano in the summer of 1980 and looked out at the terrific amount of destruction, I found it almost impossible to believe that plants and animals could survive. To my amazement, and I think to the amazement of all my colleagues, as we began to look more carefully in places that had been leveled by even the most serious impacts of the volcano, we were able to find plants and animals that had survived. And even if there weren't survivors, new migrants coming in from the outside were already beginning to get a foothold. One way that a lot of animals survived on the morning of May 18th in 1980 was to be below ground. For some animals, they not only live below ground, but all of the nutrients that they require come from below ground resources. A good example of that is the animal that made this mound, a pocket gopher. Not only do pocket gophers stay underground and they can survive with the roots and bulbs that were underneath the volcanic material, but they actually help the new plants that are coming in to reestablish.
Scientists like Joe Means of the Forest Service are studying those processes that allowed many plants and trees to survive the blast and the layer of ash, or tephra.
Here's a Pacific silver fir doing very well after coming out from under the snowpack and under the tephra, and some others not doing so well. But after they survived the tephra fall and the hot blast, they also had to reach the surface. And some of them did, like this one that's fairly stiff, and some of them did to a limited extent, like this one that's still quite bent over. And some trees, such as this little silver fir here, could not. You can see he's fairly well stuck, no green foliage on his crown. In the zone of blown down forests, one of the most important sites for survival of plants was on the vertical surfaces of root wads of blown down trees, such as you see here. Here you see some huckleberries, which survived the eruption under a snowpack, and they were further helped by being on this vertical root wad surface because pumice and ash did not collect here and smother them.
The aquatic systems around Mount St. Helens received a variety of impacts from the volcano. They range from places like Maida Lake here, where on the morning of May 18th, the surface of the water was covered with ice and snow. That helped to insulate the organisms in the water from the effects of the volcanic fallout. The result of that is that fishes and reptiles and amphibians like frogs and salamanders survived in place and have continued to breed even as early as the summer of 1980.
Not only are plants and animals coming back to the landscape, so are people. In the first years after the eruption, more than 1 million people have visited the area. In fact, the volcano has become a major point of interest for visitors from throughout the world. The Forest Service has provided access to various viewpoints inside the blast zone, such as this one at Windy Ridge overlooking Spirit Lake.
Right now, if we drained all of Spirit Lake, we'd have to go down through about 120 feet of mud to get to the top of the old lake.
Presentations by the Forest Service describe many of the subtle features of the blast area and provide answers to many a curious visitor.
Where was the Harry Truman Lodge down there?
Okay, Harry Truman's Lodge was right over at the tip of this ridge right over there, the one coming into the water. But of course, he was down about 300 feet from where it is now, because he was on the old lake line. And so he's been covered by about 120 feet of mud, and then the water on top of that.
To preserve the area around the mountain as a natural wonder, Congress and the President declared 110,000 acres as the Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument, to be managed by the Forest Service. This assures that much of the area where the effects of the eruption are so dramatic will be allowed to recover naturally, so that present and future generations can get a close-up look at the rebuilding processes of nature. For those who can't make the trip to the blast zone, but who still have curiosities to satisfy, a visitor center has been established near Interstate 5. Displays and information are also provided at the Forest Service information stations on the way into the monument. For those who do travel to the blast zone, the first impression is one of utter bleakness. Many are saddened to see an area of such abundant beauty now transformed into a seeming wasteland. But as the days and years go by, what becomes awe-inspiring is the rebirth, the regrowth, the return of life. The beauty that was the attraction for so many before the eruption is returning, albeit at nature's own pace.
Now, if we look here, what water do we see down in there? If we saw a fish, and there's just life coming back, and also, look at that, there's plants there. And there's plants coming back everywhere, and along with the plants, there's animals that come back. And just like that, there's a little frog right there.
Volcanoes are secretive and largely unpredictable. Mount St. Helens may remain active for months, years, even centuries. But one thing for sure, it will continue to change. That's the way it is with volcanoes. For now, we have a landscape in transition, a rare opportunity to look into the Earth's window and learn more about our planet and the life that thrives upon it, and a chance to marvel at nature's persistent ability to heal what seem to be devastating wounds and to rebound and prosper with abundant life and beauty.
It took me to the end to figure out what the title of this film was. I had no idea. This Place in Time is what it's called. I visited Mount St. Helens, but it was like almost 30 years ago. It's been a long time, but it was phenomenal. It was really stunning to see the devastation, but then also to see like, oh, there's green all amongst all that gray lumber that has fallen. And then Mount St. Helens itself looked like a big pile of gravel, and that there was this kind of, it was like at a work site. It was very strange, and there was a little plume of smoke coming off of it. So if you're in that area, I recommend it. It's really a testament to the earth going like, woo, and then nature going like, yeah, okay, we'll deal with that. Thanks for tuning in today. Very much appreciate it. Rich, thank you for the birthday gift. Sunday was my birthday, and so yesterday we had a party where we watched a bunch of films about parties, and and so that money is actually going to go to fundraiser that I'm doing on Facebook, where I'm sending stuff to the United Way in Buncombe County, which is in western North Carolina, which was hit incredibly hard with a hurricane, an actual hurricane. They don't normally get hurricanes up in western North Carolina, and so they got more than 30 inches of rain in some parts of the area. So we're helping however we can. But thanks for tuning in today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll watch some more films. I'm not sure where I'm going to be. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Appreciate your eyeballs and your comments. We'll see you soon. Take care.